Yeah?
Grenades!
Don't take it personally.
Vile creature! Kill! Vile creature! And again!
A bit too much for you,
Kill.
was I?
Vile creature!
What is it?
Don't take it personally.
Swift and quiet.
Yes. How many is that now?
Good night.
Yeah!
I can't do that yet!
Yeah!
Vile creature! Please wait a moment!
Yeah! Don't take it personally.
What? Swift and quiet.
Very impressive, I must say. Let me out, my friends. Oh, thank you. Have you seen Helga? Helga? Helga! Where are you?
Hello? I am Tungdil Goldhand. These are my companions, Boindil, Boendal, Rodario, Fergus and Namora, Bavragor and Goimgar.
Have you seen Helga?
No, we haven't. If you don't mind me asking, what is your name?
Call me Ensign and drop the pleasantries.
If I may, who is this Helga?
Helga? Where?
I don't know. I just wanted to know.
Helga is my wife. Didn't I mention that? We came here together, but then the orcs came and she was gone. Do you think she might have gone home? Helga!
You have a dark notion of what might have happened to Helga, but as you have no proof, you'd rather say nothing.
If you see her, you'll let me know, right?
I wanted to thank you. Your grenades really helped us.
Grenades? Oh, yeah, no problem. I used them to break up boulders, but I ended up attracting these pests. Who was to know there are Bognolum around here? And as if that weren't bad enough, along came the orcs and took me ox skull. Gosh! And Helga, where is Helga?
What brings you to these parts, Ensign? It's not exactly the nicest of places.
Aren't you here for the festival? The unbelievable Wackenstein Festival. My wife and I desperately wanted to see it for ourselves. The blind guardian, the statue over there, is the key. He calls people from far and wide to the festival. I finally found some information in the archives of Virunciensis as to how the guardian is activated.
Do you know anything about a secret passage through the mountains?
Secret passage? No, can't say I do. But they say that when the blind guardian awakens, then people will come to the festival from all corners of the world. Maybe they'll come from the mountains too.
So what have you found out about the festival, Ensign?
You see that statue? That's the blind guardian. You could call him the patron saint of Wackenstein. They say that when the festival begins, then the revellers heed his call from all corners of the earth. According to my research, we need 3 things to start the festival. A burning ox skull, the fire-eater bell, and vervain. I actually had it all, but, well, yeah, then the orcs came.
It should be easy to find an ox's skull. All we have to do is find a butcher.
Oh, it can't just be any old ox skull. It needs special decorations and engravings. Took me weeks to prepare that skull. Then the orcs came and took it. Must have thought it had some value.
So, we've got to hunt down an army of orcs. Boindale will like that. What do we do with the skull when we've got it?
Oh, well, that's simple. The ox skull must be set on fire.
You're not sure what kind of celebration needs a burning ox skull, but the mission doesn't sound too difficult.
Where will we find the fire-eater bell, and what kind of a name is that anyway?
Vinciensis. I'll track you down to a collector who lives outside the city in an estate on the south wall. According to the legend, the bell was mounted in a black tower. The tower caught fire. The bell fell down and smothered the source of the fire. Now, I'm sure you can work out the rest. The ringing of the bell opens the way for the blazing fire in our souls. At least that's what is written.
Vinciensis. So what are we waiting for? We'll visit the collector and...
It would be best if you went without me. I have some things to prepare here.
Vervain, doesn't that grow in Ergon? It's a hell of a long way from here.
Ha! Don't worry. I have a bag, where, just a minute. It's gone.
You lost it?
Well, lost. I mean, you know, briefly mislaid, perhaps. It must be here somewhere.
To begin the festival, we need the ox skull, the fire-eater bell, and the vervain, right?
Exactly. Then we need to set the skull on fire, ring the bell, and burn the herbs. And then it happens.
You're quite sure you're wasting your time. A huge festival in the middle of nowhere? But you pin your hopes on there being a spark of truth in every story, and that somehow a path will open up through the mountains when you carry out the old ritual.
To begin the festival, we need...
Exactly.
You're quite sure.
See you later, Ensign.
Let me know if you see Helga.
A bracket on which you can hang something. Ah, that must be Henson's bag of herbs.
As on the previous evening, Bavragor sits apart from the others. But tonight, he waves you over.
Smeralda, my sister. You want to know what happened, right?
You nod and sit down.
She followed Boindale into battle. We tried to talk her out of it, but she was as unyielding as a mountain. Then came the day when the High Pass was attacked.
Bavragor drinks from his liquor.
He killed her. Blinded by the frenzy of battle, he thought she was one of the enemy. I can never forgive him. He killed my sister. Could you?
You inevitably remember the loss of Lot Yonan, Frala, and her children. You remain sitting in silence, each of you deep in thought. Boendal approaches, having either heard you or guessing what you were talking about.
His fierce life forge is a curse. He thought the orcs had robbed him of his love, and the ire came over him. Sometimes he calls her name in his dreams. Oh, he'd never admit it, but he suffers just like Bavragor. He too loved her.
The stonemason doesn't react, so you and Boendal go back to the others by the fire. A two-story tavern sits on the corner of a crossroads. The snow around the building has been cleared away, and a warm light is coming from inside. The sign above the door reads, Minstrel Castle.
Minstrel Castle? That sounds promising.
The old building has nothing in common with a castle. It seems rather nondescript. A simple tavern for simple people.
Finally! Time for ale! My throat is completely parched.
As much as I hate agreeing with you, I too can hardly wait.
You enter the tavern with Bavragor and Boindil in front. On first impression, the interior is as inconspicuous as the outside. But when you take a closer look, you spot a couple of paintings of minstrels in front of a castle, a small stage that, judging by the dust, is only very rarely used, and a lute hanging on the wall behind the bar. There are not very many guests on the ground floor, perhaps a dozen, and most of them belong to a group of mercenaries who have retreated into the far corner. You sit at a table, and after a while you are brought the ale that Boindil has ordered. You go to the bar where the landlady is working and sit on a stool. The landlady, a stout, middle-aged woman with long hair tied in a ponytail, looks up briefly but says nothing.
Say, why is the tavern called Minstrel Castle? It doesn't look much like a castle.
Oh, you don't know the legend, dwarf.
One of the guests next to you at the bar takes up your question.
There was a castle here once. No one knows its name anymore, so everyone just calls it Minstrel Castle. Once upon a time, a king lived in that castle. He had many subjects and an enchanting queen. But one day a young minstrel came along and sang of wonderful far-off lands, and the subjects began to complain about their own lives. So the king sent for the singer to hear for himself. He came and sang a wonderful love song, and the king began to be scared. He thought that the minstrel wanted to steal away his queen. Without flinching, he drew his sword and struck the boy down. His father heard of this. He was himself a singer. And so he went to the king and played a terrible song, a curse. The king was to vanish in silence, and no one was to remember his name.
And that's what happened. No one remembers the name of the king or his castle. Make of it what you will. The story's certainly well known enough in the area to give R in its name.
You nod at the landlady as you slip off the bar stool, and she nods back. Bavragor and Boindil, who are absorbed in a drinking competition, have to be practically dragged out of the tavern. But in the end, you are able to continue your journey. You arrive at an empty jetty on Lake Anteria. You can see several fishing boats on the lake, and there's a small village on the other shore.
Ah, Pulbrook. What an idyllic little place. And then there's the miller's daughter.
Hey there. Would you be able to ferry us over to the other side?
At first, you think the fisherman hasn't heard you, but then he turns around and heads towards the shore. When the boat has almost reached you, the fisherman calls back.
Dwarves, are you lost? Oh well, whatever. I am Samuel. If you wish to cross, it'll cost you. Food for 10 days or 20 gold, whichever you prefer.
You give Samuel the gold, and after a long discussion with the dwarves in the group, you follow him onto the boat. The dwarves literally leap out of the boat as soon as you reach dry land.
We could have died. I hope it was worthwhile, Scholar.
The all too familiar stench of tallow and grease reaches your nose. You know what this means.
Yes? I'm with you. Too easy. Pow! Another one bites the dust. Why not? I didn't hit you very hard! Pow! Another one bites the dust! Fight! And what now? Who's next? I've been too much for you, was I? And again, I didn't hit you very hard! Vile creature! Killed! Pow! Another one bites the dust! Huh? On my way! Vile creature! Killed! And again! A bit too much for you, was I? I'm not that quick! I am Bowen. Give me a hand! Huh? Kill! Let's go! Yeah! What's up? Yes? And what now? Forward!
Too easy!
Vile creature!
He hardly put up a fight.
Yes?
Ow! Hey! What is it? Who's next? Huh? Come again. Kill. Killed.
Vile creature!
Disgusting. And again. Bow and dart. Give me a hand.
Vile creature!
Another one bites the dust. I didn't hit you very hard.
He hardly put up a fight.
Pow! Another one bites the dust.
And again.
Kill. I didn't hit you very hard.
While the others take care of their wounds, you find a brown, well-cared-for leather bag. You are certain the bag hadn't belonged to an orc, and inside, you actually find a decorated ox skull.
This will please Henson.
With this, you are a step closer to a way through the mountains, or a huge disappointment. In the middle of the path in front of you, you see an upended wagon, but neither draft animals nor owner are in sight. You approach carefully, but still can't make anything out from close up, apart from a few arrows sticking into the side of the wagon.
Perhaps we should.
Before you can finish what you're saying, the screams of a woman come from the nearby woods. Without giving it much thought, you rush off towards the screaming. After a short sprint through the forest, you arrive at a small clearing. Standing in the middle of it is a woman in a simple peasant dress, who's being threatened by two armed men. You step forward confidently.
Hey!
The two men turn around immediately. The woman stands up too, and draws a weapon herself. 3 swords are aimed at you. And Nomura has some more bad news for you.
There are archers in the trees. It's a trap.
Hey! Give us your provisions and your gold too!
We are seasoned dwarves and have killed hundreds of orcs. Do you want to see what Boindeel here can do with his axes?
Your words seem to have completely floored the thieves. The woman answers for them.
You don't scare us, groundling.
You give Rodario a sign. He nods, gets into position, and then fires off a jet of flame from his sleeve in the direction of the thieves. Without another word, the thieves take to their heels and run into the forest.
Should we follow them?
Nomura follows the thieves while you wait in the clearing. As evening approaches, a figure appears next to you from out of the darkness.
Nomura!
Fergus jumps up and moments later has embraced her tightly.
Were you able to find out anything?
They didn't detect me and led me straight to their hideout. I can show you.
It's a cave some miles from the path. Almost 4 dozen people, men, women and children.
You nod. You have tracked down the thieves' hideout. You can make out a cave in the bank of a dried-out riverbed, with several small fires burning in it. You don't see any guards, so you approach carefully. Men and women jump as they notice you. There is terror written in their emaciated faces. When a little girl screams and runs away from you, the whole camp is alerted, and a group of men and women step out of the cave.
Who are you?
The man resembles Tavia. His face too tells of a struggle between defiant determination and fatigue and resignation.
I am Gerald, Tavia's brother. I led these people here from Tabayin.
You look around you. You guess there are about 10 families, less than 50 people. Half of them are children and youths.
Your people had no chance of throwing us off. As soon as Namora was on their heels, they had already lost.
What about Tavia? Where is she?
Tavia was caught and is locked up in Seaton.
She can be glad they didn't just hang her from the nearest tree. I did warn her.
Gerald tries but fails to completely hide his worry. Tabayin is a fertile country in the north, but much more importantly these days, it borders the Perish land to the east.
How are things in Tabayin?
Gerald's expression changes. It's as if he's looking through you.
The Perished Land is raging. It poisons the spirit, and those who become possessed by it just...
Gerald looks at his hands, which he involuntarily forms into claws.
They no longer recognize you. Brothers, mothers, children. My brother-in-law. I had to...
With visible effort, he wrenches himself free of his terrible memories.
We can only hope that the Magi manage to build a new barrier soon.
You cannot bring yourself to quash the last hope he has.
Tavia went to Seaton on her own initiative.
Our gold was gone and our supplies were dwindling, despite being on half rations. I said we should just take what we need if no one is going to help us, but my sister wouldn't have anything to do with it. She took the wedding jewelry from our village, the most valuable thing we had with us, and sold it without my knowing. She then took this money and went to Seaton with several men. I was completely beside myself when I heard about it, but then they came back with food and grain, and I thought they had really done it.
He laughs cheerlessly and shakes his head.
For a few minutes we thought we were saved.
What's wrong with the grain from Seaton?
We thought we finally had a change of luck for the better. We were praying for a new start, but then we discovered that most of the grain was rotten and unusable. They'd been ripped off by the bloody steward. We all got together and discussed what was to be done. The majority was in favour of going to Seaton and taking what was due, at any price. The next morning, Tavia disappeared. It was clear to me that she had returned to Seaton. We were going to give her a couple of days, and in the meantime, we prepared for our attack. We needed weapons, and we needed a plan.
The supplies and the grain, where are they?
Gerald glances at your companions.
The grain is mainly useless. There's only 4 or 5 usable sacks. We shared out the supplies, and that'll keep us going for the next few weeks.
You're in greater need of the grain and the supplies than the people in Seaton. Keep both.
Gerald stares at you. Only after a few seconds does he finally close his mouth.
Thank you very much, sir. When I saw you turn up here heavily armed, I thought the game was up.
How could we ever justify letting people on the run die if we have enough to share ourselves?
You see tired but happy faces all around you. The people breathe a collective sigh of relief.
Know this, good dwarf. Whenever you need help, we'll come. We'll stand by your side. We don't have much to offer you, but we can muster together a few strong arms for battle, and we have some outstanding archers.
You nod and are happy to have made some new friends.
So long, my friend.
The size of the fields and the farmsteads grow as you get closer to Valenciensis, the old border city in the north. The old city wall is much too small for the size of today's settlement. Everywhere little cottages, and even the odd magnificent estate, extend beyond the wall.
The house that Henson was talking about must be somewhere on the south wall. We need the bell if we're going to open the path through the mountains.
You try to gain access to the city, but the guards on the wall are unyielding. The Orc armies in the south and the movement of the Perish land has prompted the city council to lock Valenciensis up. You try not to show your disappointment, but Boindil looks at you curiously.
Is a house full of dusty books really that important, scholar? That's no place for a dwarf.
There are also books by dwarves and about dwarves in that archive. They've practically got everything that has ever been written. They've even got notes on the races of Girdlegard, singularities and oddities, by M.A. Het.
A book about dwarves? That really can't be any good at all.
You follow the street to an estate on the south wall, which is surrounded by a fence. The paved path to the door is lined with hydrangea. You knock on the door gently, and after a while it is opened by a chubby man in expensive clothes. The man gives you a fleeting glance.
We don't want to buy anything.
He intends to close the door again without waiting for your answer.
Wait, I've been told you have a rare bell? Fire Eater.
The man pauses.
Fire Eater? How?
Before he can finish what he's saying, a red-haired woman pushes past him. She is also wearing expensive clothes and is heavily made up. After she gives him a stern look, the man disappears into the house. She scrutinizes you with greenish-blue eyes.
How do you know about that, Shorty?
I, heard from someone in the city.
In the city? But the city whose gates are closed to everyone. Of course, I believe that. Go to Tion, groundling, and don't come back.
Before you can reply, the door is slammed in your face. You go back to the rest of the group.
Doesn't look like it went too well. Maybe I should try my luck, Tungdil. I can be very persuasive.
Redario follows the hydrangea-lined path to the door in elegant strides. He knocks on the door energetically, and a little later the door is opened by a red-headed woman. When she sees Redario, her expression lightens. She opens the door fully and takes a tentative step forward.
What can I do for you? Are you a singer? An actor? Or a lute player?
The name is Rodario Fairmaid, gifted showman, mime and dramatist. At your service.
Redario elegantly pulls the hat from his head and bows before her.
Your wonderful rose bushes really caught my attention. You have exquisite taste.
The woman's greenish-blue eyes flash with anger. It immediately becomes clear to Redario that he has made a mistake. It's about details, damn it. It's all about the details.
They're hydrangeas.
The woman turns around and heads inside the house.
Of course, I paid attention to your beautiful light brown eyes.
The woman raises her head, and her disappointment is mirrored in her greenish-blue eyes.
I think you better go now, Mr. Redario. Good day to you.
Without waiting for an answer, the woman disappears into the house and closes the door. Rodario returns to the group, his shoulders sagging.
It wasn't my day, Tungdil. I'm afraid I ought not show my face here again.
Oh well, at least you tried.
You go back to the house and knock again. You wait and wait, but no one opens the door. You knock once more, this time more determinedly, and after a moment, the red-haired woman opens the door. She looks at you angrily.
Didn't I tell you not to come back?
I'm sorry, but I really need the bell.
800 gold pieces, and you can take the bell with you. Just as long as you leave me in peace.
That really is too expensive. Perhaps we can...
Before you know it, the door is slammed shut in your face. You go back to the rest of the group.
Doesn't look like it went too well. Maybe I should try my luck, Tungdil. I can be very persuasive.
You go back to the house and knock again. You wait and wait. She looks at you angrily.
I'm sorry. That is a stately sum, but... all right. 800 gold coins for the bell.
The woman takes the pouch of gold from you with a broad grin and disappears through the door, which slams shut with a loud bang.
Hello?
Have you been duped? It dawns on you that you haven't yet seen the bell. The door opens again. The man of the house pushes out a wheelbarrow containing a large object inside a sack.
May Fire Eater bring you great pleasure.
The man dumps the bell on the floor with a muffled bong. He seems anything but happy that his wife has sold the bell. The familiar...
So, we meet again.
Not at the moment, thank you.
Oh well, no skin off my nose. If you change your mind, you know where to find me.
Your path leads you one. You leave the... You enter Seaton, and the priest is lost in...
We have found the thief.
Really? That's welcome news.
With an encouraging nod, the priest of Palandial prompts you to continue.
We took care of the thieves. No one escaped.
The priest's eyes widen. Then he clears his throat and nods.
Well, good. What about the grain and the supplies?
He clearly doesn't want to hear any details about what has happened to the families.
We have given the supplies and grain to Tavia's people. They need both more than you.
This is not up to you to decide that.
But we have decided. Good day.
You leave the village for the last time. You haven't made any friends here, but that is not the point. You are accompanied by evil looks. The old ruins of Wackenstein appear before.
If I've understood correctly, the ox skull is to be burned. All right. Something's not. Fits like a glove. Henson,
have you found?
To begin the festival, we need.
Exactly. Then we need to set the skull on fire. Ring the bell.
You're quite sure you're wasting.
See you later.
Let me know.
Loud and powerful music follows the fog and the figures, crushing over your head in roaring waves. The force of the music clouds your senses, and it seems as if the statue of the blind guardian rises from his throne. You want to draw your companion's attention to it, but then you suddenly realize that you have a tankard of ale in your hand. You instinctively try it, and are happy to note that you haven't drunk such good ale since Ogre's death. The night becomes a colourful whirl of ale, music, dance and ecstasy. You can no longer remember why you're here or who you're celebrating with. For a few hours you forget what was and what is to come. You are completely in the here and now. You wake up the next morning. You're lying on your back and staring into a sky that is much too bright. You turn onto your side with difficulty and see your companions all around you, but no one else. The remains of a wild party, campfires, tents, and ale tankards are still there, but the magic has gone. You stand up, muttering curses, and try to suppress the taste in your mouth and the pain in your head. To your great surprise, you see that the stony figure of the blind guardian has revealed a tunnel that leads into the rock of the mountain.
If we go on now, we probably can't come back. The mechanism looks like it will close the pass behind us. We should be sure that we have done all we need to.
While you rest under a ledge at noon, Rodario and Fergus decide to go ice fishing, and the dwarves immediately pronounce their opposition.
Ice and water are both treacherous. They entice you to them. Before you know it, you disappear into them forever.
Like in a marriage, you mean? At first the woman entices you, but if you stay in her arms like a good boy, the good life is over all too quickly.
The good life, in which you go behind the backs of other men, get beaten up and one day die painfully of a sexually transmitted disease.
All slander, my dear.
Rodario bares his teeth for a moment and then follows Fergus to the shore.
He reminds me of a billy goat we used to have. Mounted everything that got in its way. One day, he mounted a goat that was standing too close to a cliff. The two of them fell down the cliff in the best of spirits.
Your path leads you over a snowy, hilly plain, and as you scale a particularly steep hill, you falter. A crevasse opens out in front of you. You look around, but there isn't any point nearby where you could cross over the gap. You attach a rope to a huge rock and abseil down, one after the other. The floor of the crevasse is darker and colder than you'd expected. The sun hardly ever reaches down this deep. You light torches and look around. At some distance you notice the entrance to a cave which seems to wind upwards on the other side, but you can't be sure that this path leads out. You are afraid that you might get lost in the ice cave and freeze to death in misery, but ultimately your curiosity is rewarded. You find after an hour's search a winding passage that leads you to a large chamber. You walk ahead with your torch outstretched and see a shadow in the ice. You step backwards in shock as you realize that it's the body of a frozen human. Something glittering in the floor grabs Goimgar's attention. An ornamented gold shield. Part of it is frozen into the ice, but it should be easy to free.
Pure gold! This thing must be worth quite a bit, though it would be completely useless in a fight.
You allow Goimgar to free the shield from its icy prison. After you've had a look around the rest of the chamber and taken a short break, you look for a way back up to the surface. You are able to continue on your way without any further delay. You finally arrive at the entrance to a valley that curves its way towards Ironhald, the Firstling stronghold.
By Vracus, we've done it! Get down!
Up there!
Run! I can't maintain the spell for long!
Put him on Goimgar's shield. To the gate. Quick!
As you approach the first gate, you see guards on the battlements. You call as you run.
By Vracus, we are dwarves of the kingdoms of the Secondlings and the Fourthlings. Open the gate!
Their leader gives orders that you cannot hear, but moments later, the gate opens up for you.
Report back! Man the walls and the defences!
The guards follow the orders immediately.
Who are you that lead the Alpha to our door?
How dare you speak to us like that? Dwarf who seems to have no name?
Boindale steps forward before you can stop him.
I am Boindale Doubleblade, a child of the smith of Burrowin folk. And that is my brother Boindale, who needs a healer immediately.
The commander pulls down his scarf, and his face leaves you speechless.
Only a dwarf could make such a fuss. Balander Steelfinger. I protect the main gate of the Firstlings, therefore it is my duty to regard all guests precisely before I invite them in.
But you were a woman.
You have a keen eye, Boindle Doubleblade.
The tender features and soft fluff leave no room for doubt. A female dwarf is the commander of the guard. She gives orders for the injured Boindal to be taken care of. 4 dwarves pick him up on his shield, and Boindil follows them.
Stay with your brother. I will bring the rest of you to Queen Zamtis, where you can explain what you're doing here.
Come closer, and be welcome to the kingdom of the Firstlings.
I am Tungdil Goldhand of the Fourthling Kingdom.
You introduce your companions one by one, not forgetting to mention the twins and the Mager too. You then explain the reason for your visit. You report on the advance of the Perish Land, the death of the Magi, and the dispute about the next High King. The dark brown eyes of the Queen fix on you for a moment before she speaks.
What you report sounds very serious, Tungdil. You can be sure of the support of the Firstlings. How may we assist you?
There is only one way to defeat Nodon. Keenfire. To forge it, we need the best smith your kingdom has to offer. Help us, and thus help your kingdom, my queen.
The Queen considers, then nods.
So be it. Could there ever be a better time to revive the old commonality of the kingdoms? Balandis here is not only my best warrior, she is also my best smith. She will accompany you.
Your eyes fall upon Balandis, and you notice the blood rushing to your cheeks.
I will do my best. You can trust in my axe and my hammer.
We must continue on our journey to the Firstlings in the Grey Range.
Then I will show you the entrance to the tunnels. You will be in the Perish Land within a few orbits.
You know the tunnels, but still the Firstlings live in seclusion.
Our isolation was self-imposed. My mother knew that the other kingdoms would not simply accept her as the queen. She wanted to give them time to get used to it.
Your Highness, in the name of the Council of the Kingdoms, I request that you send a delegation to the Blue Range to take part in the discussions. We all have a common enemy.
There has never been any enmity between my kingdom and the others. It was more neglected friendship and habit that has made us strangers to one another. As soon as you set off for the Grey Range, we will head east to see our brothers and sisters again. I will have rooms prepared for you and your companions so that you can rest. It has been some time since we have had guests, but we still know what hospitality means. Come to me when you are ready to depart.